Hey guys, tonight we dive into a world where personal care rituals were woven deeply into daily life, long before electric toothbrushes or minty toothpaste tubes. Imagine waking up beside the mighty Nile, the morning sun casting golden ripples across the water as the scent of papyrus and fresh earth fills the air. This is ancient Egypt, where the ordinary act of cleaning your teeth was far from mundane. It was a delicate dance between nature's gifts and human ingenuity. You trudge through your morning routine much like anyone else, except instead of modern toothbrushes, you reach for a humble concoction made from crushed rocks. Sounds rough, right? But hey, you probably won't survive the abrasive power of these natural scrubs without a bit of ancient resilience. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is locally. It's always fascinating to see this global bedtime history party in full swing. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. In ancient Egyptian daily life, hygiene was a ritual as vital as the rising sun. People living along the Nile understood the importance of cleanliness, not just for health, but for spiritual purity. The Egyptians believed cleanliness was tied to Ma'at, the divine principle of order and balance. Washing hands, faces, and yes, even teeth, was part of honoring the gods and maintaining cosmic harmony. Your morning might start with a splash of water from a ceramic vessel, cooling and refreshing your skin. Unlike today's instant access to clean water, the Nile was your lifeline, your bathroom, and your spiritual cleanser. Bathing was common and often elaborate, especially for the wealthy, with oils and fragrant lotus flowers adding a sensory layer to the experience. But personal care wasn't just about looking good for the pharaoh's court or the bustling markets. It was about health and survival. The dry climate, combined with a diet heavy in coarse grains, meant that oral hygiene needed attention. The ancient Egyptians faced dental challenges just like you do, except they had a much more abrasive toolkit. Throughout their day, Egyptians carried small containers of powdery substances, carefully prepared mixtures of crushed rocks, ashes, and aromatic herbs, all aimed at scrubbing away the gritty residue left behind by their staple foods. The idea was to keep their teeth not just clean but strong enough to chew the tough breads and vegetables that formed their diet. Interestingly, while you might think these rough powders would scratch and damage teeth, historians still argue whether the abrasiveness actually caused long-term harm or if the natural composition helped keep their teeth surprisingly healthy for the era. Some studies of ancient skulls show worn enamel but fewer cavities compared to other early civilizations. So as you settle into your pillow tonight, imagine the ritual of grinding stones into powder, mixing in fragrant herbs, and gently scrubbing each tooth clean, an intimate moment of care echoing across millennia. The sun climbs higher over the Nile, warming the air and coaxing the bustling villages to life. You can almost hear the soft chatter of merchants, the clatter of pottery, and the distant bleating of goats. But beneath this everyday hum lies a less glamorous truth. Ancient Egyptians, much like us, dealt with stubborn dental troubles. Their smiles weren't always picture perfect, and that's partly why their teeth cleaning rituals mattered so much. You probably didn't expect to spend your evening thinking about ancient toothaches, but here we are. Dental problems were surprisingly common along the Nile, especially given the heavy wear from coarse grains ground with stone mills, which left tiny bits of grit in their bread. Imagine chewing a crusty loaf seasoned with tiny bits of rock dust. Sounds crunchy enough to chip a tooth. Evidence from mummy studies reveals a rather gritty reality. Many ancient Egyptians suffered from worn-down enamel, cavities, gum disease, and even abscesses. Those little abrasives in their toothpaste might have helped clean teeth, but also caused gradual erosion. It's a dental catch-22, clean teeth or enamel wear. Historians and archaeologists still debate just how much the abrasiveness of crushed rocks contributed to these dental woes. On the quirky side, some researchers have found traces of unusual ingredients in ancient Egyptian dental powders. Powders mixed not only with crushed stones, but sometimes with powdered ox hooves or burnt eggshells. Yep, eggshell toothpaste, anyone. These odd components might sound strange, but they hint at a deep experimental spirit in early dental care. They were figuring things out the hard way, long before the chemical formulas of modern toothpaste. Oral health wasn't just a private concern, it carried social and religious weight. Poor teeth could affect your standing in society or even your afterlife journey. Egyptians believed that the body had to be intact and pure for the afterlife, so taking care of teeth was part practical, part spiritual. Imagine the pressure to maintain a good smile, not just for selfies but for eternity. You brush your teeth tonight with an effortless swipe, but remember, for those ancient Egyptians, each cleaning was a careful ritual balancing health, spirituality, and the abrasive power of their natural pastes. The morning light filters gently through the reed curtains as you settle into the rhythm of ancient Egyptian life. Dental care, as it turns out, didn't spring from nowhere. It evolved slowly, a response to the daily realities of eating and living along the Nile. You find yourself pondering the origins of tooth cleaning, a practice that surprisingly traces back thousands of years, with Egypt playing a starring role in this early dental story. The earliest records suggest Egyptians started caring for their teeth long before they had the fancy gadgets we take for granted today. Instead of electric buzzers and minty foam, they relied on simple, accessible tools, sticks, twigs, and naturally abrasive substances that could scrub away food and plaque. You can picture them carefully selecting branches from certain trees to chew on, softening the wood into a frayed brush-like tip, much like a natural toothbrush. Interestingly, historians still argue whether these chew sticks were primarily for cleaning teeth or for freshening breath. But either way, they were an essential part of oral care. These early toothbrushes were sometimes combined with abrasive powders to boost their effectiveness. So, instead of the smooth bristles we know today, Egyptians had these fibrous twigs, which might sound primitive, but actually worked well for dislodging food particles. By around 3000 BCE, we find references to more sophisticated dental care in medical papyri, where dentists, yes, they had dental specialists, prescribed mixtures of crushed minerals and plant materials for cleaning teeth and soothing gums. The ingenuity is remarkable. Natural abrasives like powdered ox hooves and burnt eggshells blended with fragrant herbs showed a sophisticated understanding of materials long before the term toothpaste existed. You might chuckle imagining the ancient version of a pharmacy aisle, stocked with rock powders and ground spices instead of gels and mint strips. But the real marvel is how these early Egyptians managed to craft practical solutions from their environment, turning nature's offerings into a health ritual. As you lean back tonight, remember that your own bedtime brushing owes a quiet nod to these ancient innovators, who, armed with sticks and crushed rocks, laid the groundwork for the oral care routines we barely think twice about today. As you trace your fingers over the smooth surface of an ancient artifact, imagine it's an Egyptian toothbrush, fashioned from a twig carefully selected for its fibrous properties. You cradle it gently, feeling the rough bark texture that once scrubbed away Nile, breadcrumbs, and desert dust from teeth. These humble tools were the humble heroes of daily hygiene, standing in stark contrast to the opulent life of the pharaohs. In the bustling marketplaces and quiet homes of ancient Egypt, personal grooming had its rituals. You probably picture royalty lounging with gold and frankincense. But the reality for most Egyptians was far more grounded. Their dental tools were made from natural materials. Chew sticks from Salvadora persica trees, sometimes called the toothbrush tree, prized for its antimicrobial properties. As you gently gnaw on one of these twigs, the end softens and frays, mimicking the bristles of a modern brush. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some evidence suggests that certain Egyptian doctors recommended chewing these sticks, not only to clean teeth, but also to help freshen breath, and possibly even relieve tooth pain. Imagine a tiny ancient pharmacy in your mouth, dispensing relief with every gnaw. However, historians still argue whether these sticks were used by everyone or primarily by the elite, as the poorest might have lacked access to such materials. It's a puzzle, were these sticks ubiquitous or a luxury? The archaeological record offers clues but no definitive answers. Meanwhile, the abrasives that accompanied these sticks were equally fascinating. Egyptians ground up a mixture of crushed rocks, like quartz and pumice, into fine powders, combining them with fragrant resins or crushed herbs. This blend acted as a toothpaste, scrubbing away stains and debris. The gritty texture might make you wince now, but in a world without dental floss or fluoride, it was their best bet. You might cringe at the thought of scrubbing your teeth with gritty rock powder, but the Egyptians prized this method. Studies of mummified remains show surprisingly clean teeth with less plaque than contemporaneous civilizations, suggesting their methods had merit. And yet, the question remains, did this abrasive powder contribute to long-term enamel erosion? Scholars debate how these abrasive agents balanced cleaning power against wear. The dental evidence is a silent but telling testament to this ancient oral care balancing act. So as you drift off tonight, imagine the gentle fraying of chew sticks and the gritty scrub of crushed rock powders. Ancient rituals blending nature, health, and a touch of resourcefulness. You sink deeper into the history of ancient Egyptian dental care. The image of bustling Nile villages fading into a quiet temple courtyard where scribes carefully record medical knowledge. Dental hygiene was more than just a habit, it was part of a larger medical tradition that intertwined health with religion and magic. You might not expect it, but your nightly teeth cleaning ritual today echoes those ancient practices more than you realize. In these temple clinics, priests and physicians, often one and the same, held the knowledge of remedies that extended beyond the purely physical. They prescribed tooth powders made from crushed minerals and herbs, and sometimes included ingredients with symbolic or magical significance. A sprinkle of frankincense here, a pinch of myrrh there. These weren't just for scent, but were believed to ward off evil spirits that might cause tooth hackers. It's easy to picture an ancient Egyptian patient sitting nervously in a stone chamber, waiting for a tooth hatch diagnosis that could include charms or spells alongside practical treatments. The famous Ebers Papyrus, an ancient medical scroll, mentions recipes for oral care, blending empirical knowledge with mysticism. One recipe calls for a mixture of natron, a naturally occurring salt which served as a cleansing agent, almost like the ancient equivalent of mouthwash. Quirky yet true, some dental remedies included surprisingly modern ingredients. Honey, for example, was used for its antibacterial properties, not unlike today's natural toothpaste brands boasting Manuka honey. Imagine ancient dentists mixing honey with crushed rocks, part gritty scrub, part sweet salve. Yet historians still argue how widely these remedies were used. Were they reserved for the wealthy who had access to temple healers, or did common folk also apply these mixtures? Archaeological findings in poorer settlements suggest simpler, perhaps less effective, dental care routines. The spiritual dimension is just as intriguing. Egyptians believed that teeth were part of the body's protective magic. Damaged teeth could jeopardize a person's well-being in this life and beyond. So the act of cleaning teeth was also a ritual to maintain cosmic balance. Next time you swish your mouthwash or brush your teeth, remember that you're participating in a tradition as old as the pyramids themselves. A blend of science, superstition, and the eternal human desire to keep smiling. You move along the banks of the Nile, the air warm and filled with the faint scent of papyrus and baked clay. Around you, everyday Egyptians go about their routines, mindful of the small but vital tasks that sustain health, among them dental care. In this world, the preparation and application of tooth cleaning powders is as much a part of daily life as grinding grain or tending livestock. These powders were no mere afterthought. Egyptians carefully selected and ground materials that served multiple functions: abrasive cleaning, breath freshening, and even gum soothing. Crushed seashells and powdered ox hooves created the rough texture needed to scrub teeth, while fragrant spices like cinnamon and anise masked less pleasant odors. You might be surprised to learn that some mixtures included ground charcoal, a primitive but effective ingredient still found in modern toothpaste brands. Imagine a family gathered around a low stone table, passing down recipes for tooth powders like cherished heirlooms. These were blended with precision. Too much grit could damage teeth. Too little left them less clean. You can almost hear the soft grinding sounds as these ingredients were pulverized on stone slabs, a rhythmic sound that, centuries later, would be lost to history. One particularly curious ingredient was crocodile dung, believed to have antibacterial properties. While this might make you cringe, it's worth noting that the ancient Egyptians had a pragmatic approach to medicine, combining observation with trial and error. Crocodile dung was reportedly mixed with other substances for dental treatments, an example of their resourcefulness, even if it challenges modern sensibilities. Historians still argue whether such remedies were genuinely effective or more symbolic, a kind of placebo comfort amidst the limited medical knowledge of the time. The physical evidence in mummies, however, shows varying degrees of success. Some individuals had remarkably healthy teeth, while others suffered from decay and abscesses. Your journey through this dental history reveals a balancing act between nature and necessity, where even something as humble as crushed rocks held the promise of cleaner, healthier smiles. Next time you rinse and spit, picture those ancient powders, a gritty reminder of humanity's endless quest for comfort and care. You're transported now to a dimly lit workshop, the scent of resin and crushed herbs hanging in the air, where skilled artisans crafted personal hygiene tools that were as much works of art as they were practical implements. The toothbrushes of ancient Egypt were simple, yes, but also crafted with intention and respect for the materials. Imagine holding one, a slender twig carved carefully, its end frayed by chewing to create a soft brush-like texture. Nature's original dental gadget. The Egyptians didn't stop at twigs. Archaeologists have uncovered small containers, sometimes ornately decorated, believed to have held tooth powders or pastes. These little pots could be carried to the market or temple, a kind of portable pharmacy for your mouth. You can almost see an Egyptian merchant carefully measuring out a pinch of powder, a ritualized gesture combining precision with care. What's fascinating is that these powders sometimes included ingredients sourced from distant lands, reflecting Egypt's vast trade networks. Crushed turquoise and malachite, minerals prized for their color and supposed healing properties, found their way into oral care products. The idea was not just cleanliness but also spiritual protection. Turquoise was thought to repel evil and disease. Here's a quirky fact. Some evidence hints that Egyptians used abrasive powders not just on teeth, but also on their skin, perhaps as exfoliants or cleansers. This dual use of materials speaks to their resourcefulness and the blurred lines between cosmetic and medicinal practices. Historians still debate the exact formulation of these powders. How abrasive were they, and did they cause long-term damage? Some dental remains show signs of enamel wear, but it's unclear if this was due to the cleaning methods or the gritty Nile sand that inevitably found its way into their food. Your mind wanders to modern toothpaste, adds promising whitening and fresh breath, and you realize the ancient Egyptians were the pioneers of these concepts. Blending practical care with a touch of luxury and mysticism, you find yourself in a shaded courtyard where an elderly Egyptian woman carefully prepares her daily tooth powder. The aroma of crushed herbs mingles with the dusty scent of powdered minerals. This ritual, passed down through generations, involves meticulous grinding and blending, almost like a small ceremony to greet the day with a fresh mouth and a calm spirit. The powders were often stored in alabaster jars, beautifully crafted and sometimes inscribed with protective spells. These containers weren't just functional, they were treasured possessions, symbols of status and care. The act of tooth cleaning thus became a moment of personal pride and spiritual hygiene. Among the common ingredients was natron, a naturally occurring mix of sodium carbonate and bicarbonate, with mild abrasive qualities and cleansing power. Egyptians used natron not only for dental care, but also for mummification, demonstrating the interconnection between preserving the body in life and in death. A less expected ingredient was crushed eggshells, which provided a gentle abrasive while supplying calcium, though we can only guess how well this worked. The Egyptians clearly experimented with what nature provided, combining culinary leftovers and mineral wealth to concoct their tooth powders. You might chuckle to imagine a shopper at the ancient market debating between tooth powders scented with mint or myrrh, not unlike modern-day choices of toothpaste flavors. It's a reminder that even thousands of years ago, people enjoyed a touch of pleasantness in their routines. Historians still argue whether these powders could truly prevent tooth decay or if the ancient diet, low in refined sugars but high in grit, played a larger role in dental health. Teeth from mummies show a spectrum from well-preserved to badly worn, suggesting lifestyle and social status affected dental outcomes. The gentle hum of the grinding stone, the sweet smell of herbs, and the soft clink of alabaster jars all blend into a sensory world where cleaning your teeth was an artful, meaningful act, not just a chore. You follow a bustling street lined with merchants and craftsmen, the sun warming the stone buildings as you watch the daily rhythms of life in an ancient Egyptian town. Among the many trades, one caught your attention: the makers of dental tools and tooth powders, a surprisingly specialized craft. These artisans weren't just sellers, they were experts in oral health, their shops filled with curious ingredients and tiny containers. Tooth sticks, those humble twigs we met earlier, were often sourced from aromatic trees like Salvadora persica, known today as the toothbrush tree. Chewing on these twigs released natural antiseptics and helped scrape away plaque, a clever use of nature's pharmacy. You might find it oddly comforting that long before plastic brushes, people relied on twigs for dental hygiene. These products were sometimes mixed with animal-derived ingredients too, like powdered hooves or bones, adding abrasiveness and minerals. It sounds a bit eccentric now, but to Egyptians, these natural materials were all part of a balanced oral care approach, blending texture and chemistry. A quirky fact, there's evidence some powders included crushed snail shells, chosen for their fine grit and availability. Imagine the delicate crunch under your teeth, a texture that probably felt strange, but was effective in cleaning. Historians still debate how widespread dental care was. Did common folk have access to these powders, or were they luxuries reserved for the wealthy? Tomb inscriptions suggest that dental health was valued across classes, but the quality of care likely varied widely. As you watch a customer selecting a small jar of tooth powder, you realize that ancient Egyptians' relationship with oral hygiene was surprisingly complex and thoughtful, a blend of science, tradition, and a touch of the mystical. You walk along the banks of the Nile at dawn, the mist curling over the water as fishermen cast their nets. Nearby, children play with simple wooden toys, and women gather water in beautifully crafted jars. Among them, a mother shows her child how to use a chewing stick, patiently demonstrating the gentle scrubbing motions that keep teeth clean. Dental care in ancient Egypt was as much about community as it was about personal health. The passing down of knowledge, how to prepare powders, how to choose the right twig, was woven into daily life. You can almost hear the soft chatter, the laughter mixed with instructions, as hygiene was learned by watching and doing. The Egyptians also believed that a clean mouth was a gateway to the soul's purity. Mythology intertwined with routine care. They thought that neglecting teeth could invite illness or misfortune, which made tooth cleaning not just practical, but spiritually necessary. One quirky tidbit, some evidence suggests that Egyptians occasionally used crocodile dung as a toothpaste ingredient. Don't worry, it was dried and crushed, and thought to have medicinal properties. It's a strange choice by today's standards, but it highlights how ancient people experimented with the world around them. Historians still argue whether such unusual ingredients were widespread or isolated practices, possibly limited to certain regions or classes. Either way, it's a reminder that health beliefs were deeply tied to cultural ideas and available resources. As the sun rises higher, you realize that the gentle rituals of tooth care reveal much about daily life, how health, spirituality, and nature intertwined in the Nile Valley, shaping habits that were both practical and poetic. You settle into the quiet coolness of a temple courtyard where scribes and priests prepare scrolls and medicines, their fingers stained with ink and herbs. Among their duties was the preparation of tooth powders, blending ingredients with careful precision. These mixtures were not only for personal use, but also part of the temple's healing arts, where oral health was linked to overall well-being. The temple's medicinal texts describe recipes involving crushed rocks, powdered herbs like mint and cinnamon, and even burnt egg shells, each ingredient chosen for its supposed healing and cleansing properties. This blend of natural materials served as an early form of toothpaste, designed to scrub away debris and freshen breath. You might smile at the idea that Egyptians valued fresh breath so much that they flavored their tooth powders with aromatic spices, much like modern minty toothpaste. This gentle aromatherapy aspect of oral care adds a sensory dimension to their routine. A quirky aside, some texts mention the use of blue stones, believed to be ground lapis lazuli, in medicinal recipes. While its role in dentistry is debated, lapis was certainly prized for its beauty and supposed protective qualities, making it a fascinating inclusion in health rituals. Historians still debate the exact composition and use of these powders. Were they strictly for cleaning, or did they also serve symbolic or ritualistic purposes? The overlap of medicine, magic, and daily care in ancient Egypt complicates our understanding. You realize the act of cleaning teeth was not merely a mundane chore, but an intersection of science, spirituality, and sensory pleasure, creating a daily ritual that connected body, mind, and soul. You follow the path of a caravan traveling from Nubia into Egypt, laden with exotic goods, precious stones, fragrant oils, and strange powders. Among these cargoes were ingredients for tooth care, traded across vast distances and cultures. The Egyptians eagerly incorporated foreign minerals and herbs into their dental recipes, showing an openness to new remedies and a desire for ever better oral hygiene. One particularly prized import was frankincense, whose fragrant resin was crushed and added to powders for its antiseptic and aromatic properties. The scent would linger pleasantly, leaving the mouth feeling fresh, a bit like modern mouthwash, but without the alcohol burn. You might be amused to learn that some tooth powders were mixed with soot or charcoal, creating a black paste. While today we think of charcoal toothpaste as trendy and natural, the Egyptians had been experimenting with it thousands of years earlier. Their goal was to polish teeth and absorb impurities, a surprisingly sophisticated approach. A curious tidbit: trade routes also brought in crushed seashells and coral, used for their abrasive texture and mineral content. These marine materials hint at the Egyptians' deep connection to both the river and the sea, and their resourcefulness in using everything nature provided. Historians still argue about how much foreign influence affected Egyptian dental care. Did these imports transform routines, or were they a niche luxury? The evidence is tantalizing but inconclusive. As the caravan continues, you glimpse the ways that trade and cultural exchange enriched everyday life, including the simple but vital act of caring for one's teeth. You find yourself inside a bustling marketplace, the scents of spices and fresh bread swirling through the air. Nearby, a tooth cleaning station is set up, where a vendor offers freshly prepared tooth powders and aromatic sticks to passers-by. This lively scene captures how oral hygiene was woven into social life. More than just a private routine, it had a communal rhythm. The vendor explains that people often clean their teeth multiple times a day, after meals and before sleep, following advice passed down through generations. This regularity helped manage the wear and tear from their gritty diet, which included coarse bread and plenty of dates. You'd probably chuckle knowing that despite all this care, ancient Egyptians had surprisingly high rates of dental wear and cavities, partly due to tiny bits of sand and grit trapped in their food. It's the classic trade-off between their hard-working teeth and the environmental factors they couldn't fully control. A quirky detail: some Egyptians reportedly chewed on a resin called mastic, which acted like a natural gum, freshening breath and cleaning teeth between the more thorough brushings. Historians still debate how uniform these habits were across social classes. Was daily tooth cleaning a norm for everyone, or mostly for the wealthy and elite? The archaeological record leaves room for interpretation. Watching the crowd engage in these gentle rituals, you realize that dental care was a quiet, everyday connection among people, blending hygiene, health, and social interaction in a way that feels surprisingly familiar. You wander through the quieter halls of a wealthy household, where servants quietly prepare the morning routine. A lady of the house delicately picks up her chew stick and tooth powder, attending to her dental care with calm precision. In this private moment, you see the personal side of hygiene, how it was tied to status, beauty, and self-care rituals. The wealthy used finer tooth powders, sometimes enriched with precious minerals and fragrant spices like myrrh and cinnamon. Their sticks were often made from aromatic woods, chosen not just for effectiveness, but also for scent, turning the mundane into a sensory pleasure. You might find it amusing that some elite Egyptians kept tiny containers of tooth powder like precious jewels, carrying them to formal gatherings to refresh their breath discreetly. It's a reminder that even thousands of years ago, people cared about the social aspects of oral hygiene. A fascinating tidbit: cosmetic dentistry was also practiced. Some wore dental inlays made of gold or ivory, not just for function but as a subtle status symbol. Talk about a blinged-out smile in ancient times! Historians still argue about how widespread these luxuries were. Were dental inlays rare curiosities or more common among the upper class? The truth likely lies somewhere in between. As the household settles into the day, you see how tooth care, like many rituals, reflected personal identity and cultural values as much as health concerns. You drift into the evening calm of an ancient Egyptian home, the sun's fading light casting long shadows. The day's end brings the final dental ritual, one last careful cleaning before rest. Here, you sense the deep connection between daily routines and the rhythms of life itself. The nighttime tooth cleaning was believed not only to protect the mouth, but also to guard the soul, ensuring peaceful sleep and protection from malevolent spirits. Some used powders mixed with honey and aromatic oils, adding a soothing sweetness to the ritual. You might smile imagining that ancient Egyptians, despite their vast knowledge, relied on a bit of superstition alongside practical care. After all, honey is sticky, but also antibacterial, so perhaps the best of both worlds. A curious note: some funerary texts reference the care of teeth in the afterlife, suggesting a spiritual dimension to oral health that extended beyond mortal life. Historians still debate how much these beliefs influenced actual hygiene practices, blending religion, medicine, and daily habits in ways modern science is only beginning to appreciate. As night deepens, the gentle ritual of tooth cleaning closes the day's chapter, a small act of self-care echoing through millennia, connecting you to those who came before. Now, as you settle into sleep, feel the cool freshness lingering, a silent bond across time.